Okie dokie. So we are back from Mr. Jeffrey's Algebra 2. We're going to be going over constraints of quadratic inequalities. I've revamped this lesson, and it's so revamped that people aren't paying attention. It's a great day to be Mr. Jeffries. Don't forget, hit subscribe, hit the like, hit the bell. I have one ear that's working, and I can hear y'all over me. That's, hey, guys, teaching. Okay. All right. So here's the deal. There's a checklist that you need to do. Okay. This right here, is the zero being eaten? This is kind of what you need to think of. Okay. And some of y'all will not understand what this means until we actually start doing it. Okay. How does it factor? Did I put the opposite signs of what's in the parentheses? That's like we learned last week with solving by factoring. And is the answer in the right format? Now, as I was saying before I started recording, I didn't teach this until last year. I didn't know how. There was used to be this thing you had to do a test point and all this, and then this spring they're like, "Hey, there's a pattern." And I'm like, "I like the pattern," and I double checked the pattern before I did this handout. So this is what. Okay, so here's the big thing right here. When the zero is being eaten, okay, the answer will be some number, with these signs, X and another number, or you have them with the lines up underneath the alligator heads. Okay. So this is what we do. All right. So here's our problem. And you kind of solve it by factoring. Okay. What are the factors of -3 that combine to give you 2? Well, luckily for 3, there's only 2 factors. There's 3 and 1. Okay. They've got to be different signs. This is negative, so the bigger number has to be negative. So, oh man, that was only going to be really cool if only one of them moved. All right, so this would actually factor as x plus 1, x minus 3. Okay. And you could actually split that and solve it, or we could do the other pattern like we learned about last week, that it's the opposite sign. So what's the opposite of plus 1? -1. What's the opposite of -3? +3. Okay, so is the zero being eaten? Look, this is what I mean by the zero being eaten. I don't know if y'all had this when y'all were growing up learning inequalities, that the teacher said the alligator eats the bigger number. Okay, all right. Oh, sorry. So, anyways, shh, yeah. So, we can discuss the eating habits of alligators later. Uh, but this is just listen. I'm from a very small town, so we just said okay. This is before the interwebs, so it looks like the zero's being eaten. So that's why it's going to be in this format. So our format for this is going to be our number. We have -1, we have x, and we have 3. Now we need to look right here for our sign. Our sign looks like this. So that's it. Okay. Now we did that problem in about a tenth of the time that I taught it before. Okay. Now, also with constraints about these, when you talk about graphing, you'll look at different things and how it's shifted and moved and everything. This is the main part right here. Okay. Zero being eaten. That's this example. How does it factor? We factored it. Did I put the opposite signs? I did. Is it in the right format? Yes. Okay. That's it. Okay. Are you good? Okay. Yeah. Sometimes when I try to make the lessons really easy, some of y'all are like, I don't get it. Okay. Is that a snarl or you smell an air biscuit back there? Or okay. All right. So let's look. Let's look at this one. Okay. So we have this problem right here. The 0 is being eaten by the alligator. Okay. Whether it's bigger or not, it's still being eaten. Okay. So we need to say what are the factors of 10 that would combine to give us -7. Okay. And I didn't put the t-chart out here. If you have to do it this way, they're both going to be negative. All right. So you would have 2 and 5. All right. That's how that one would factor. Now, this is going to go a little bit easier because I actually gave you the spaces for you to put in those factors and things like that. It saves some time and everything. All right. Now, when we're doing this, hang on, I'll adjust it. There we go. All right. So what's the opposite of -2? +2. And yeah. And we see that our sign right here looks like this. So we'll have a 2, a X, a 5, and then we put the sign in like it's supposed to be. Okay. Now, also on this right format, other than the signs like this, and if the alligator's being eaten, I don't know if y'all have also noticed I've had the smaller number on the left when I solve it. That's kind of important because you don't want to accidentally do 3 is less than x, which is less than -1. What? Okay. That's a bad time right there. Okay. So nobody wants to do that. All right. So that was 2 where the alligator's being eaten, or alligator's eating a 0. I mean, we'll eat alligator later. Uh, it'd be good. Alligator étouffée. Ooh. All right. So we good with the first 2 examples. Okay. All right. All right. Now, when the 0 is not being eaten, okay, this is when you look at it and it's like this. Now, I couldn't put a different or in between here because it wouldn't make sense because it's like or. Okay. But we're going to have it like this or like this. Okay. And the only reason why is because it's going in different directions. It's kind of like the old Bugs Bunny cartoons. They're like, which way did he go? And they're like, he went that way and he crosses his arms because it's literally going away from each other. Okay. So right here, we factor this. This is our problem. Okay. We have -2 that tries to get us -1. Well, luckily 2 is a prime number, only has 2 factors, 2 and 1. The bigger one's got to be negative. Okay. So this is how it factors right here. Now, which gives us as the opposite signs, opposite of +1 is -1. Opposite of -2 is +2. All right. So this is when we need to worry about the formatting. Our sign does not have a line up underneath it. So we're going to have x less than -1 or x is greater than 2. Okay. That means we can actually take numbers that's less than -1, that's greater than 2, we plug them in and we get a true statement. Okay. So that's kind of it. Yeah, this is kind of combining like 6 different things all at once. This is combining solving by factoring, uh, graphing inequalities and things like that. And I could make it difficult. I don't want to. Anybody want it to be more difficult? I think Amanda does. I said a student name, but nobody knows who they are because I don't show the students. All right. So same thing. We got to solve by factoring. We got negative 14, negative 5. Notice I kept these kind of small. I'm not testing can you factor. I'm testing can you do this format. This is basically it. Okay. Our bigger number has to be negative. So we would have a positive 2 and a minus 7. Okay. The opposite of positive 2 is negative 2. The opposite of negative 7 is positive 7. Now, we're doing it in the same format like we did here, except the only difference is we have to have our signs in the correct way. So x is less than or equal to negative 2, or x is greater or equal to 7. Okay. Now, believe it or not, that's it. Okay. I know some of y'all are like, wow, it's not that difficult. A lot of this stuff now, since they changed the standards, it's like a hodge. It's literally like leftover stew. Like you go through at the end of the week, go through your fridge, put anything that hasn't spoiled yet into the crock pot, leave it in there for 4 hours, and now you have a stew. Okay, that's basically what a lot of this stuff is. No, you're not a fan of the crock pot? Why don't people like the crock pot? Yeah. I don't know about 20 hours. Okay. What now? It does feel like 20 hours. Favorite thing that we like to do at the house is to put we usually use venison. We'll put the 2 pounds of frozen venison in the crock pot. We'll put the taco seasoning, cover it, leave it on low before we leave in the morning. So it's been cooking since 8 o'clock. So it takes all that gaminess out, and we have venison taco meat, and it's a great night. Love venison tacos. Crock pots make you sad? I'm sorry. All right. For those viewing at home, we're actually stopping right here because that's really the lesson. You could actually look up. I have another one that looks like this that I should do test points and explain it and blah, 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 blah. It's the same pattern. Okay. All right. Don't forget, hit the subscribe, hit the like, hit the bell. Yeah. And if you keep watching, there'll probably be more venison recipes as we come through. Good stuff, good things. Roll Tide.